Okay, I hope you've read the do now and tried it on your own first. If not, go back to the last slide and do that first. It would be a crime to talk about sequences without talking about the Fibonacci sequence. It's an extremely important sequence. You'll understand why in a few minutes. The Fibonacci sequence is the series of numbers starting with 0, then 1, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 8. We see it's clearly not arithmetic because it's increasing by 1 here, but then by 0, but then by 1 again, and then 1, but then 2, and then 3. And it's not geometric either, but it's a special sequence. The next number is found by adding up the two numbers before it. So 1 is found by adding the two numbers before it. 0 plus 1 is 1. 2 is found by adding the two numbers before it. The 1 plus 1 is 2. And then the 3 is given by the 1 plus 2 is 3. And it just keeps going like that. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, etc. So what are the next three numbers in the Fibonacci sequence? Well, after the 8, we would add the 5 and the 8. So that would be 13. And the next one would be 8 and 13, so 21. And then the third would be 34. So the answer to this first question is 13, 21, 34. This is something I found once that I just thought was kind of interesting. If you see, starting with 0 and looking this way, you've got the Fibonacci sequence. 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. But if you go the other way, if you go the negative direction, in other words, this number would be decided by what would I add to the 0 that would give me this number. I would have to add 1 to 0 to get that 1. So that gives us the 1. The 0 would be the sum of the two preceding numbers. So 1 plus what would be 0? Well, it would have to be negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. What would we add to this negative 1 that would give us positive 1? You'd have to add positive 2 to negative 1 to give you positive 1. And then what would I be adding to the positive 2 that would give me this negative 1? I would need a negative 3. And what would I add to negative 3 to give me positive 2? Positive 5. What would you add to positive 5 to give you negative 3? Negative 8. And so you see it's the same sequence of digits as you move left from the 0, but with an alternating sign. They're alternating between positive and negative. So that's just kind of something interesting. And here's what this will show you why the Fibonacci sequence is so important. The numbers 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34. It keeps going. But if you had a square like this square right here with a side length 1, and you put it right next to another square with side length 1, then this distance would be 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. So you could make a square with side length 2, and then this 2 plus this 1 would make 3, and so here's a square with side length 3. But then also this 3 plus this 2 would give you a square of side length 5. The 5 and the 3 would give you a square of side length 8. And it creates this red spiral that you see. And that spiral, the math that creates the spiral from that sequence is found in nature, all kinds of different places like seashells, or bigger things like the sunflower seeds. You see how they spiral around? Let's see if I can convince you of this. Like the way this goes around, like it's following that same spiral pattern. Or a hurricane has that same Fibonacci sequence spiral, or even something bigger than a hurricane, a galaxy, has that same spiral.